We've had a special request from Emma and Carolyn to talk about social media now, so we're just going to switch the whole thing round and start talking about social media for you ladies, okay? And we're going to talk about social media. Obviously, we've mentioned it in passing, but now we're going to get into it much more closely and look firstly at the holistic side of social media and where it can go horribly wrong. So please welcome the director of Social Fuel, Jon Ross.
Hello everybody, good afternoon. I was horrified to see vast amounts of steak and red wine being consumed over the last hour. So I assume I am now the warm-up act for the 10 top apps that are going to come on in about half an hour. And I've used the very positive, being a half glass empty kind of guy, why social media strategies fail. What am I not going to talk about? I'm not going to talk about how you can increase the number of Twitter followers or up the number of Facebook fans you've got on your page, why you should use Pinterest, what's the difference between a mobile app and a mobile website. So what am I going to talk about? Just to clarify things, I'm going to talk about shiny stuff. I'll explain more later. Missing the point and the bad strategy. And maybe a little bit about what you can do about it. There's a lot of social strategies going out in the market at the moment, and no matter whether you're a big company or a small company, some of them have gone horribly wrong. And the internet is littered with Facebook pages with no engagement, blogs nobody reads, and it's a real shame. You know, I'm not worried that the internet is suddenly going to get full and there's going to be no space for the rest of us. But all these blogs and pages and everything represent an awful lot of effort and time and resource. And it's sort of criminal that some of them just go into the ether and nothing happens. And I wondered, why does that happen? You know, because social media is so easy, isn't it? We've got these great platforms and you just put them up there and they do their thing and everybody's happy. But unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. So, shiny stuff. What do I mean by shiny stuff? Shiny stuff is the stuff I love. And actually, David Ball, in his opening session this morning, alluded to shiny stuff's all that stuff that happens every day, isn't it? Every day there's a new bit of kit that's connected in some way. It's an e-book, you know, it's a tablet, it's a phone, you know, we're getting, what is it, latest things, cameras. Have you seen these cameras? Connected to the internet. You take a photograph, within 30 seconds it can be up on your Facebook page, it can be out on Twitter. You don't have to do anything. You can get a connected fridge now. Why would you want a connected fridge? But you can get a connected fridge. Your cars are getting connected. And it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. Interesting stat. By the end of 2014, 40% of Europeans will have an internet-connected TV at home. Well, so what, everybody says? Well, I think it could be a revival for the website, you know? All of a sudden, you can look at it on your TV. And what does that mean for double screening? Are we going to go triple screening? Or are we going to go split screening? Or are we going to go back to single screening? We don't know. And this is the problem with all these new ideas, is that we don't know if they're going to change the world or if they're going to basically disappear into the ether. Last year, it was Pinterest. I would go onto a client and I'd go and see them, and if I didn't mention Pinterest in the original pitch, right at the end of the meeting, they'd sort of try and squeeze it in saying, do you think we should have a Pinterest page? And you'd go, well, you make car parts, you know? Why would you want a Pinterest page? And I think for the marketeers in the room, and for the bosses of the marketeers in the room, digital marketeers are in a terribly difficult place now because they're in this never-ending race trying to keep up with technology. And my advice, having worked in the technology sector now for far too long, but it's 25 years plus, is don't bother to try and keep up. You cannot do it. You will spend all your time just trying to stay on top of what's happening. So this is a good thing to look at on your iPads, because But this is a cartoon that I found, and it makes me laugh, which might make me sad, and it still makes me laugh, because I must have been about 12 meetings last year where this happened. This classic example of going, yeah, we're going digital. We've got to get a Facebook page. We've got to get a YouTube page. We're going on Pinterest. And somebody said, well, why? And they hadn't thought that out yet. My favorite is, let's get a YouTube page, we'll make a video, and we'll send it viral. Yeah, okay, it doesn't happen like that. But that's not a new phenomenon, this sort of falling in love with the shiny things. Quite a few years ago, does anybody remember an online game called Second Life? Hands up, anybody remember that? Okay, Second Life. Second Life, for those of you who don't know about it, was this fantastic online game where you could create yourself in a new image, in a wonderful world. It could be exotic, it could be on beaches, you could be in Florida. You could be a boy if you're a girl, and a girl if you're a boy. You could be anything you wanted to be. Mercedes loved this idea. They really loved it. So they decided that they were going to build a showroom in Second Life with all the latest Mercedes vehicles, and you could earn your points, or whatever you earned in Second Life, and you could use them to buy a new Mercedes car in your virtual world. Now, this turned out to be a lot more complicated than Mercedes envisaged, and actually, they could have built a brand new showroom on the Great West Road for less money than they put into Second Life, literally. And within about 2 months, the idea had passed. It wasn't taken up. It was a complete and utter disaster. And so there might have been some PR movement. But even the big companies get lured into these lovely ideas that the latest thing is the best thing. And I think this is where we take a step back. Now, I know you've had a lot of stats on social media. And I'm a social media guy, and I love social media. So this is going to feel a bit odd, because I'm going to give you sort of all the facts that make social media look a bit less good, shall we speak. 61% of consumers do not want to engage with brands or anything else other than their friends on social media. Of the ones that do, so that's 39%, only 61% of them do because they've been incentivized to do it, i.e., a lot of my customers, people like Airwick, Vanish, Sillet Bang, those kind of brands, give away samples. And that's one of the best ways they can to recruit customers. So they've been given something. So what's the value of that? You know, is it a numbers game? 1.2 billion followers on Facebook, Facebook users. 1% engage with brands and businesses through Facebook. Gartner came up with some interesting information late last year. They reckon that 50% of organizations are wasting money on social media. Not because social media is bad, because they were doing it so badly. And I'd love to know what that figure was in terms of pounds, shillings, and pence. So I think the first thing for digital marketers here and everywhere is sometimes you need to take a step back and say, well, I'm in this race, I'm trying to adopt the latest technology, I'm trying to find that silver bullet. My boss is asking me why we're doing social media or why we're not doing social media. Both are very difficult questions to justify sometimes. And you need to take a step back and you've got to say, well, do I need 10,000, 5,000, 1,000, 100,000 followers? And once you've got an idea of what you need, what are you going to do with them? And I know that sounds terribly obvious, but actually this is a point that frequently gets missed. It's not about being there on the platforms, it's about what are we going to do with those platforms and with those people once we've got them. So how do you avoid the lure of shiny things? For me, it's incredibly difficult. I like shiny things. You know, I'm the guy who comes in and says, let's do a Pinterest page. And you're the guys who've got to turn around and say, well, why? This is the boring bit. Because you've got to get back to basics. People in the events, conference, expo businesses have a fantastic advantage over, for example, large brands. A big brand like Dove doesn't have a relationship with its customers. It's trying desperately to get one now by trying to leapfrog the relationship the supermarkets and the chemists that sell Dove have with their customers. And that's why they use social media. But they don't know who their customers are. They're still using customer segmentation methods that were devised in the 70s. You know, Sheila from Wolverhampton, aged 48, with a pet dog called Lucy. I mean, it's literally as basic as that. Whereas you have your databases, you have your relationships, you have your targeting, you've got a good idea of who your customers are. But I think the next stage is to take that further and apply it to the digital world. And what a large number of companies are doing now is that they're using forums in Facebook or in LinkedIn to take a small number of their community and interrogate them further about how they're using their digital assets. Where do they get their information? Because we all have a digital ecosystem. I'm sad, I've got an iPad, I've got an iPhone, bit of a trend happening here. I've got a laptop, I've got a desktop, 2 desktops, but I use them in different ways. And I use the apps on each of them at different times, in different environments, for different reasons. And this is the next stage, I believe, is that we have to understand the digital ecosystem broadly of our customer base, so that we know then how to tap into them when we want to. In the olden days, we used to create an environment and expect our customers to come to us. Nowadays, our customers expect us to be in the environments in which they operate in. So they expect to meet us there. They don't want to come to our website necessarily, but they're happy to meet us in a forum in LinkedIn maybe. I'm going to talk very basically later, after the app session, on monitoring and measuring. But I think what's happening still now, those of you that monitor and measure your digital assets, is you do them in silos. So you'll get your analytics from your website, and you'll get your insights from Facebook, and you might get a bit of information from Twitter, and you will look at them in individual silos. And the next stage is to actually blend those, so you get a pure picture of what's going on with this digital ecosystem, so that you know how to leverage it and how you can integrate those channels much more effectively. Because your whole audience isn't ever going to be in one place at any one time. And you need to find out when they are, and where they are, when they're there, and why they're there. Focus on what's true, not what's new. Sorry, that's a bit naff. What did I mean by that? The danger of chasing the newest platforms. So, for example, Vine is, we've got a little social media team up here at the moment, and we've had a few Vine videos going out. And Vine's fun. This is a sort of 30-second editable video you can send out on Twitter or Facebook. But the danger of adopting new technologies too quickly without a real understanding of whether they're right for your audience is that you will lead to create that fatal mistake of getting ahead of your audience. You will be delivering your audience things that they're not ready for and not ready to use, which is really the cardinal sin. Because effectively, like I said before, you want to be in the places they are. Let them lead the pace, and then you leverage the environments that they want to use. So missing a point. This happens a lot. I'm going to be blunt about it. We all know there's loads of money in the digital world, 300 billion, that's nice. I don't see a lot of that, but I'm working on it. But in the US, 54% of companies don't have a clear customer strategy. Yeah? A lot of them build sites, Facebook pages, Twitter pages. They create these lovely environments. And again, this is difficult for events. You know, after your event, do you put as much effort into your post-event environments as you did in the pre and during the event? A lot of these people get left hanging. Terrifying factor. This is in the consumer area, but there's always somewhere else to go, and it's so much easier now. If people have a bad experience, they can go somewhere else, and they do so. We all heard this factor about people getting friend recommendations, but you know, when they're talking about you, they're not talking about your advertising or your promotion. They're talking about the experience they have with you as an organization, as a brand, or as an event, and that's what's being discussed. So this is the key point, I think. Back in the 90s, websites were always about how many people were watching it, eyeballs. And that's sort of drifted into social recently. You know, how many people have you got? How many fans have you got? How many people are you reaching? That's not the point. It's not an engagement nirvana. It's not a great place where you're going to have great conversations with your audiences all the time. From time to time, yes. But what is it? It's an opportunity to renew your focus on customer experience. Social has always been about customer experience. Go back to the Delta Airlines, Delta Breaks My Guitar video from years ago. That is what social's about. And if you get the customer experience level right, all the other good things will follow. So from my point of view, it's about focus. If your focus is about trying to sell things, whether it's a message or stuff, without that customer service thing being dominant, you will fail. If you concentrate on servicing your customers, all those other things will come. And then finally, bad strategy. Even today, we get distracted by what I call the digital fluff. Like I said, lots of new things, lots of distractions, pressure to find the silver bullet. Sometimes we're led to look for something that's going to be a quick win. Well, there aren't any. Mistaking goals for strategy. Often I hear, oh, what's your strategy? Oh, we want to make a social business. We want our business to be social. That's not a strategy, that's an objective. Maybe it's a goal. But it certainly isn't a strategy. And every time people don't get back, strategy isn't sexy. Creative is sexy, new stuff is sexy. Strategy is just boring, hard work. It's working out where you are, where you want to go, and how you're going to get there. A classic example of bad strategy recently has been Pepsi. Pepsi launched last year the Refresh Challenge, which was a bit of a take on the Pepsi Taste Challenge from years ago, but they did it online. And this was PR'd to death. And they got 80 million votes on Pepsi, pretty good, worldwide. They picked up something in the region of about 250,000 posts, something like 80,000 new Facebook fans. And then they looked at the stats of the performance of Pepsi at the same time in the stores. And Pepsi lost 5% market share against Coca-Cola globally, which added up to $500 million in revenue. Now, this doesn't mean to say that the social strategy was wrong, but it wasn't aligned with what the rest of the business was trying to do. It was a social strategy in isolation, which clearly wasn't linked to the sales. So, in summary, focus on what's true and what's new. Beware of the shiny stuff. Start to try and understand your brand's digital ecosystem and its audiences. And I think the best way to do that is get 2 or 3 members of your audience in a forum or after an event and actually ask them questions about what they use, how they use it, how they'd like to engage with you, what kind of information they want. Because you can only guess that to a degree. Break down your information into silos and then put it together to try and get a healthier ecosystem picture. And I think really now any company needs to have a digital roadmap for more than 12 months. And I know that's really hard because you think stuff's changing all the time. How can I do a digital roadmap? Well, my trick on this is start with the stuff in your industry that isn't going to change. And that's your backbone. And then work on everything else. So, thank you. That's it.
Yeah, you're looking forward to questions, aren't you? Don't go anywhere. Can I give you that just to see if we can avoid the static from now on?
I have all the solutions, Nob.
You have all the solutions. Okay, well, let me show you some of these things anyway. That cartoon's so true. There we go. Absolutely loving this current speaker. He gets what we're up against. Yes. Oh, sorry, that was from this morning. Sorry, I'm sorry.
It's called empathy.
Yeah, and where are all the stats from?
They're a bit of a mixture, but actually I have a big confession to make. It's the fact I'm an ex-Nielsen guy. Don't say anything. And a lot of the stats came from my existing friends in Nielsen. So they've got a really good little outfit in New York, which is teamed up with McKinsey. And they produce regular stats, and it's well worth Googling them, because they produce reports every month, which are well worth downloading. They're usually done in nice infographics as well, so they're easy to digest, and that's where I get a lot of my data, and it's pretty good. It's both local and global as well, which is unusual.
Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Now, I don't need the answer now, but this is a question that's come in, okay? And you'll be around later, I'm sure, won't you? So people can chat to you and ask you for the answer. How would you use social media to promote a school? Okay? Strategy, social media, school. Think those words, okay? Take it away, think about it, and someone will approach you and say, excuse me, I want to know the answer to that.
That's fine, that's good.
Okay? Okay, and one last one. How do we make a 5-year digi roadmap when iPhones are only 5 years old? Especially when you work in a digi industry.
Well, I think this is where you start. You look at your industry and you know that certain things in whatever industry you're in are not going to change. They may be slightly affected by digital, but those fundamentals are still going to be there. That's when you start. And then fundamentally you'll hang things off that. So for example, there are going to be certain things in your business that you do now which are not digital that I think you can safely assume will be done in a digital way in maybe 3 or 4 years' time. And that is part of your vision. When you do a 5-year plan, especially in this day and age, probably the next 12 months are hard. They're the things you want to achieve. Everything else is a bit more fluid. But what you get is a bit more long-term thinking. If you only work 12 months at a time, you effectively have to go back to the drawing board again at the end of December and January and reappraise everything and start from scratch. If you've got a little bit more 5-year visionary, where could we go? And it's quite good fun as well. Do workshops with your team, take them out for an afternoon and go crazy. Where could we be in 5 years' time? It's a great question.
Okay, I'll tell you where you could be in 5 seconds' time. It's off the stage. Thank you very much, Jon Ross. I'll take that, just in case. Thank you.